The Protestant Reformation also takes root in England. Unlike the Reformist movement on the continent, the English Reformation is born out of the struggle between the English monarch and the Pope. Our story now takes us to Henry VIII of England, one of the most famous or infamous monarchs in English history. Henry VIII had a reputation which was legendary. Many records indicate his sheer physical size and athleticism. And indeed, Henry VIII loved to show off his physical abilities. In particular, he was a fan of martial sports. One of Henry VIII's favorite pastimes, and something which he routinely held, organized, and even participated in, was jousting. Now, part of this was a propaganda offensive. He wanted to display to his subjects and foreign visitors that he had power, that he symbolized the power of the English nation, and just as how he could put down his opponents in tournaments, he could put down anyone who threatened him, whether they came across the channel from Europe or they came from within, such as a rebellion. Henry VIII displayed himself as a type of early modern strongman. One historian noted that Henry VIII was a man who regarded war as a sport fought between aristocratic kings. For Henry VIII, war was a competition in which the monarchs asserted their strength against each other. Nonetheless, Henry VIII also loved to show off his intellectual and creative strength. He was extremely educated in a modern sense. He was not only extremely educated, knowing numerous languages, but he also supported the arts, music in particular. One of Henry VIII's goals was to perpetuate his so-called Renaissance reign far after his death. However, there was only one problem. Prince Henry VIII was upset that his wife, Catherine of Aragon, had not produced a male heir to the throne. And without a male heir, Henry VIII's Renaissance reign could not continue. Because of this, Henry VIII in 1527 asked the Pope to give an official divorce so that way he could marry another wife and produce a male heir. Now, ordinarily, this would not have been a problem. However, at this time, the Pope was a prisoner. Rome at this point was occupied by the Holy Roman Emperor Charles V. Now, the thing about it was that Charles V was the nephew of Catherine of Aragon. And if the Pope were to issue this divorce, well, it would spell bad news for the Pope. The Pope basically wanted to keep his head, and Charles V did not want to be embarrassed that his aunt was divorced. Nonetheless, Henry VIII continues to push for this divorce. He wanted to make his redress of grievances as official as possible. Now, the Pope transferred this court case to Rome, which at this point, it's Rome under the occupation of Charles V, and Henry VIII knew that he had no chance of winning this case. It's at this point that the Archbishop Thomas Cranmer comes into the story. Cranmer is a loyal subject. He simply declared the divorce legit, and it was legit. He was basically like, let's just say you're divorced, and then you're divorced, and then that's exactly how it went down. Now, Henry VIII does not settle for a simple divorce. Now, according to Catholicism, the Pope was the head of the entire Catholic Church. But now with this divorce, Henry VIII is essentially asking himself why, recognize any authority of the Catholic Church. I should just make my own church, and he does. And so, through several acts, the Act of Secession, the Act of Supremacy, these lay the foundation for a particularly English church, the Anglican Church, in which Henry VIII is the new leader. Henry VIII essentially creates a new church, and he himself, as monarch, is also a sort of miniature pope of this new church. He forces all his subjects to recognize his new position and to proclaim loyalty to his new faith and to himself as leader of this new faith. One of the laws passed made it punishable through execution anyone who did not recognize his legitimate political and spiritual leadership. Henry VIII's usurpation of the Catholic Church, their authority, their hierarchy, reflected dominant themes happening on the European continent.